Could one of the most historic rivalries in college football be coming to an end? Let's find out. Let's talk about it. Stick around. This is Way Offsides. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Way Offsides, your favorite Alabama talk show here on YouTube. That's Way Offsides with 4A's. Never three, never five. Three's not enough, five's too many. Welcome in. Do me a favor really quick. Smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Do the dang thing. It helps us out to keep bringing new content to you. And we've got a lot of opinions to express that you're going to want to be a part of. Now, today's video is going to be a sensitive topic for some people. And a lot of it is based off of what could happen, not necessarily what's going to happen. So I'll preface it by saying that first, up front and foremost, that we're not 100% sure what's going to happen. What we do know is that the landscape of college football is drastically changing, evolving rapidly. Some of this is due to NIL. Some of this is due to playoff expansion. Some of it's due to transfer portal. Some of it's due to changes in offensive and defensive philosophy, but it's changing quickly, very quickly. And it's not all good. Some of it's good. Some of it's for the better, but it's not all good. Alabama fans, Tennessee fans too, if you come across this video, I'd really like your opinion on this video and the potential of what we're going to talk about. So please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Moving on. So Greg Sankey yesterday went on a rant. Greg Sankey's unhappy. And I think he has reason to be. It's his job to protect the SEC, the conference. And he didn't hold back talking about playoff expansion. He called out the ACC and the Big 12 in terms of them getting these at-large bids with their conference champions and things like that. But something else that he kind of talked about as well that isn't getting as much media attention was he talked about the potential of a model in place to protect only 2 rivalry games per season if the SEC remains on an 8-game SEC schedule as opposed to going to 9 games, kind of like it did during the COVID year, Alabama's last national championship year. Sankey brought this up basically because there's this idea that he wants the conference to go to a 9-game schedule, but at the same time, it's a little bit of a give and take because the SEC is a gauntlet, right? We all know that. You can lose to anybody on any given Saturday. We know that. Alabama fans know that very well after 2024. But at the same time, there's really no incentive right now with beefing up your schedule, especially in terms of non-conference opponents. But it doesn't make sense when teams who are playing much lesser talent are being rewarded and provided a playoff spot. And we saw that last year was the first 12-team college football playoff. We saw what happened in those first couple of rounds. We saw who didn't belong. Clearly, the games weren't competitive at all. Now there's talk of going to 16 teams. Lane Kiffin wants that model. I think you're just going to get more of the same in the first couple of rounds. This isn't going to be like college basketball where you have a lot of these upset stories. The dynamics of football are just a lot different and the talent gap is much wider. Now maybe they're wanting to provide incentive to narrow that gap in talent. NIL, the transfer portal, is doing a little bit of that work. However, coaches aren't adhering to any kind of guidelines to provide stability. FSU is a great case study in this and that. After that undefeated season where they missed the playoff to Alabama because they lost Jordan Travis, just did a whole video about that, by the way. I'll link it in the description. But after that season and Nick Saban retires, they go and poach rosters all over the country and pretty much build a team with players from everywhere else. We all know how the story ends. They have a dismal 2024 campaign and become the laughing stock of college football. So there's a give or take about moving to 9 SEC games, 8 SEC games. I really don't have an opinion on it right now. I would love to hear your thoughts. Please tell me, should the SEC move to 9 games in conference? Should they stick with the model they do now? Now, here's the thing that Sankey said is that if they stick with the 8-game model, that there is a model in place that would do away with certain conference rivalries. Each team would probably be allotted 2 rivalries per season, because it just, that's the way the cookie crumbles. And the SEC, according to Greg Sankey and most people who are fans of the SEC, deserves more opportunity, playoff opportunity, than other conferences, as I would argue with the Big Ten. So Sankey basically has said that that plan is in place, right? And there's this critical stretch going on with college football. It's kind of in flux, but the model is present, and this got a lot of people talking. It says he won't commit to anything, but if the SEC winds up sticking with an 8-game conference schedule, there are models that protect more than one rivalry per team. That's via Andy Staples on 3 on X. So what does this mean? I'm just going to read this. For years, the SEC has made certain games on the calendar despite not being in the same division. Third Saturday in October, Alabama, Tennessee, along with like Auburn and Georgia. The SEC is full of these rivalries, right? If we can get the playoff selection, McMurphy, says that he believes it makes sense for the SEC to go to a 9-game stretch. But it doesn't make sense if they're not guaranteed playoff spots. So what's going to eventually happen is the way it looks like. We've already done away with the divisions in college football, in the SEC. So what's going to happen is it looks like Alabama, those rivalry games could start dwindling away. The consensus on social media is that the foremost rivalry that Alabama could lose would be LSU right off the bat. If you're going to look at 3 rivalry games, Alabama has 3 per season. It's LSU, Tennessee, obviously the Iron Bowl, and Auburn. The Iron Bowl cannot go away. That's not going to go away. It's too lucrative to the state. But a lot of fans are starting to talk about the potential of losing the 3rd Saturday in October, or what historically would be played on the 3rd Saturday in October, sometimes the 4th. But obviously, you all know that if you're watching this video, that is the Alabama-Tennessee game. It's a very storied rivalry in college football, and I'm struggling with the thought of not playing Tennessee every year simply because it's Tennessee. And whether you like Tennessee or not, just seeing Alabama and Tennessee on the field every fall just kind of really drives college football home. There's a lot of crazy storylines that have happened behind the scenes, obviously with Philip Fulmer. The Alabama, it's been pretty lopsided recently. Tennessee has won 2 of the last 3, so they're kind of on the up and up. And so do you really want to get rid of that rivalry? Well, if you're potentially costing a Tennessee or an Alabama a playoff spot when they could be playing, Mississippi State instead, I can understand Greg Sankey's thinking if it's going to be an 8-game stretch for SEC or in-conference opponents. So I'm really interested to get your thoughts on this, just because I haven't really thought this through. I'm doing this video just kind of off the cuff here. And so I want to hear from you guys more than anything of what you think it should Alabama lose one of these rivalries. Now, I too am in the train of thought that I would imagine it would be LSU that Alabama would lose if they're only, slotted for 2 rivalry games every season, just because there's so much history between Tennessee and Alabama, old school traditional history, and obviously Auburn and Alabama, that in-state rivalry, you can't lose that. But I would say in terms of the national picture of things, the real rivalry that's been significant for Alabama has been LSU the past 20 years. They've played each other for national championships. They've played each other for slots in the SEC championship game. They've had, there was at one point the 2 best teams in college football by far, and they played twice in that season, and it was amazing. Both games, just defensive showcases. So I I don't want to lose the LSU game either. Now, do I want Alabama to have an easier path to the college football playoff? That's really what this comes down to. And I think I'm on the fence about it. Yes. Do I want Alabama to have, a more lackadaisical pathway to make the 12-team playoff, or if we go with the expanded playoff model? Yes, I do. But do I want an unbattle-tested Alabama in the playoffs? No, I don't think I do. I think I want Alabama to have to go through the gauntlet. But the problem becomes obviously a lot of these decisions are going to be financially driven. And so the potential to miss playoff spots for the SEC is a big deal because of that cost share model that the SEC has. And Alabama not getting a spot, or another team like Tennessee or LSU not getting a spot because they lost to a top 5 team on the road, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow. Last year, if Alabama doesn't lose to Tennessee on the road, even with the loss to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, they likely still make the 12-team playoff. So you have to sit back and consider, is it wise to play these rivalry games when you're potentially just playing yourself out of millions of dollars? I don't know, because do we want the sport to be about revenue generation, or do we want it to be about tradition and the fans, what we want to see? I want to see Tennessee and Alabama every year. I want to see LSU and Alabama every year. But outside of the revenue that it generates on television and in the regular season, in the big picture, it could be costing one of those teams a playoff spot and a chance at making a lot of money and winning a national championship. And that's something that Sankey has to weigh and consider, because you are getting to a point in the SEC where it's not just Alabama and Georgia anymore. It used to just be Alabama. It was Alabama and Florida for a little bit there. Then it was just Alabama. Now it's Alabama and Georgia. But you're getting to a place where there's 4 or 5 schools who could legitimately be competing for national championships every year, and they all play each other in the regular season. Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, LSU this year, and I'd even potentially throw Ole Miss in there. I think Florida's on the up and up. I still think they're a couple of years away from being there. But so do you want these teams beating up on each other and playing each other out of playoff contention, national championship contention? And when you look at the other conferences, it makes sense, because they're not all built the same. Take 15 seconds and go look at Ohio State's 2025 schedule. Go look at their 2024 schedule. Ohio State was clearly the best team at the end of the season last year. I don't want to take anything away from them, but when you look at their schedule, they had a pretty easy path. All right. And they lost their rivalry game to Michigan last year. They've been losing to Michigan the past few years, but the SEC was different because no, Alabama should not have lost at Vanderbilt. They should not have lost at Oklahoma. But if that rivalry game against Tennessee doesn't happen, then Bama probably makes the playoff last season. You got another team bringing in revenue from the college football playoff, and Sankey's got to look at it through that lens. So tell me what you think, and while you're at it, please like, subscribe, do all the things. We rely on you to be active and to bring content. So don't be afraid to leave a comment. We'll reply to some, not all, but if you leave a good enough one, we'll give you a kudos. Thank you for stopping by. We absolutely love each and every one of you. Please read your Bible, say your prayers, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.